Hello everyone and welcome to this video. In this video today what I'm going to be explaining to you is the mathematical operators and how they work in Kotlin. So let's just get started. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to create a new class, and I hope you guys are doing this as well just to keep your files organized. So we're going to create a new class, a new Kotlin class, and we're going to call it math operators. All right, and we're going to hit OK. So let's get rid of this commentation and let's create a function. So function main. All right, we're using the function main arguments array, string, and open a function. So this is the main function. So the way I'm going to do this is we're basically going to learn the mathematical operators by creating a calculator, very simple calculator. So let's basically say this is a simple calculator. So let's actually give that a comment, and let's say this is a simple calculator. Again, it's very important that you use comments. So first thing we're going to do is let's first remember that we have to prompt the user to enter the first number. So let's say print line, let's say print line, please enter the first number, colon, and there we are. So now again we're going to use the read line to input the first number. So we're going to create a variable number1, all right, that's n1, and we're going to make sure it's an int. It has to be the data type of an integer, just for the purpose of this video. So variable n1 integer, and that's equals to read line. All right, so we basically use the read line. Again, it's giving us the error, and that's because, as I mentioned in the previous videos, that the read line is the default data type is a string, so we have to convert this into an integer. So to integer, all right, and that's basically going to convert the variable n1 into an integer and store it whatever number you write for n1 in the n1 variable. So let's use another print line statement saying please enter the second number. All right, we'll use a colon and open that up, and we're going to say variable n2, very similar to the first one, is we're using the int data type, and that's equals to read line, and that's basically we're going to convert that into integer, and that's basically that. So we have two of these values, and that's it. Now we have to create basically we now have to create a variable that will store the sum. So let's create variable sum. All right, the variable sum is going to be of type float. All right, you can use float or integer depending on what type of calculations you're going to be doing. So let me actually just start with integer for the purpose of this video. So variable sum is an integer. All right, and this is going to expect a value. All right, so it's not going to expect a null value, so we don't need to leave the question mark. So it's going to expect a value. And what is the value of sum? We're going to say sum is equals to n1 plus n2, and that's basically it. The sum is equals to 1 plus 2, the value of the first number plus the value of the second number, which we're going to input. So the sum already has its value, which we'll get over there. So that's basically your first mathematical operator, is the addition operator. So let's actually create an output statement here. So called print line, and we're going to say your sum, the sum is space. We're going to use a concatenation, and we're going to use the variable sum. All right, and let's just use the Control S to save this, and let's run this. Let's see what we get. So hopefully it should actually prompt us to enter two numbers, which will then add it and then display the sum. So as it says over here, please enter the first number. I'm going to enter 20, and the second number I'm going to enter 50. All right, so if this should work, the answer should be 70. So if we enter that, and indeed we do get 70. So that is basically the mathematical operator for addition. Now, looking at the others, again, it's very simple. There is the subtraction operator, which is again self-explanatory. It will just minus the first value from the second value. So let's say the difference is, all right, and we can then change this variable into let's use the diff. All right, just change the variable name into diff, and let's get rid of this sum and say the difference is equals to n1 minus n2, and then we can basically add this concatenation saying difference. We can edit it. So now it's going to basically it's all about subtracting. So let's save that and let's run this. All right, so once this runs, it should again ask us to enter. So let's enter the first number as a bigger one, 50, the second number as 20, and we know that the difference between these two should be 30. So again, the difference is 30. So that's basically subtraction. Pretty awesome stuff. Now, looking at the others, we then have multiplication. All right, so then we can say the product. So the product is equals to, so we're going to use the variable product. You can use a shorter name if you want, but I'm going to use this. So we're going to say product, just edit it where necessary, and we're going to say the product is, and it's going to be n1 times n2. So again, simple mathematics here. It just applies as simply as it would in real life. So there we are. Please enter the first number. So we're going to do a simple multiplication, 5, and the second number will be 2, and that the product is 10. Pretty simple mathematics, and you get the idea. You then have the final one, and I think one of the most popular ones that's being used currently. And I don't mean this by any means is the most popular in the world, but what I see myself using a lot, and that's the division, which is just a /. So we're going to call this we're going to call this let's just call it div. I know that means for those of you who do web development, that means basically a section of the web page, but that's not what we're doing right now. So div, which is also an integer, and we're just going to say here, say div. All right, and we're going to say I'm going to say, we can basically add even another further concatenation saying n1, then we use a concatenation saying n1 divided by, and use a space and use another concatenation, n2 use another concatenation is equal to, and we use another concatenation here, and that's basically going to output the divided, whatever you get from the divided section. So we actually have an error here, and what's the error saying? So basically n1 print line, there's some error, there's some kind of error here. Let me just check out what it is. It's going to say plus by defined in Kotlin. It's giving us this. If we just try and run this, let's try and run this and let's see what error it gives us. Not sure what the error is. I'm pretty sure it's got to do with float. All right, so when dividing, as I said, this is where we get to changing data types. Sorry about that. I actually forgot to actually tell you guys this. So we're going to use the float data type, which you guys should already know what it is. Float data type allows basically larger figures. So n1 divided by n2. And if we were to use those two, basically it's going to say div n1, n2. We already gave these, so now we have to give them as floats up here. So we're going to use float, and again we're going to convert this to to float. All right, so let's convert these two integers now, n1 and n2, to float inputs or data types, because it's very true that when dividing you will get remainders, and the float data type is the best suited for this. So div, basically we're dividing, that's going to be a float value, and once we're adding all of this, we can say the concatenation right here is done very well. Let's give that a space, and let's say n1, right, and we're just going to use that, or we can basically just display all of this. If this keeps on giving you an error, just basically say the answer is, and we can use the concatenation, and we say div. All right, and that basically give us the answer if we divide two numbers with each other. So let's actually run this and let's see if we can get an answer. So enter the first number. We're going to try 4 divided by 2, and the answer is 2. Because we used a float, it's going to allow us to use decimal places, which is very important. So let's run this again and let's use different values. So if we enter the first number, let's say as 3, and we use the second one as 5, it's going to say the answer is 0.6, and that's why we use the float data type right here, which is most suited when using decimal places. So that's basically it for this video, guys. Very important as well to learn the different mathematical operators in Kotlin, and I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you have any questions, just let me know in the Q&A section of the course. Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this video, I'm basically going to be explaining increment and decrement operators in Kotlin. So you might be asking yourself, what are increment and decrement operators used or put in place to increment or decrement the value of a variable or a variable itself? So let me actually show you this. So again, let me create a new class. Let me get rid of this old class and let me create a new class called increment and decrement. So increment and decrement. All right, so let's actually get rid of this comment right here. Let's create the function string. All right, there we are. Let's open that up now. As I said, it's basically used to increment or decrement the value of a variable. So if I was to say variable a, all right, is equals to, let's say variable a is equals to 1, all right, variable b is equals to 2, right? Now if I was to say variable sum is equals to a plus b, right? If I was to say that, that would make sense, all right? But now what if I was to say what basically an increment operator is denoted by let me just comment something here. This is the increment operator. All right, so basically an increment operator is denoted by 2 plus signs, all right? And what these plus signs mean in essence is the following, all right? So it's very similar to saying the plus signs mean this. They mean a is equals to a plus 1, all right? So it's going to be the value of a plus 1, the value of 1. So if a right now is 1 and we add 1 and we add it to b, which is 2, what answer do you think we'll get? If all this makes sense and we have actually used the increment operator correctly, it should return the result of sum as 4. So let's actually print that out as sum, and let's try and let's run this and let's see whether we get 4. In theory, it should return 4. So let's see that. Let it run again. It's taking time because I've just started up Intellij. So let it just compile the code. And here we are. It's going to give us 4. So pretty simple to understand what an increment operator does. It adds 1 to the original value of the variable. So if we had here, if we had 4 as a, the value of a, then a would become 5 because we have increased the value by 1, and the answer would be 7. So let's try and see that just to make sure everything is working according to our understanding of how it works. Alright, there we are, 7. Pretty simple, pretty easy to understand. Now, when we're talking about decrement operators, let me just comment this. When talking about your decrement operators, my typing is really bad. Alright, so when talking about decrement operators, we can basically do the same thing as we did over here. We can say a variable difference is equals to a minus b. But with decrement operators, it's it's so similar to the first one that all you have to do is add 2 negative signs, all right? And that means minus the value. So let me just let me comment that so you understand that. It means a is equals to a minus 1, all right? And that basically means it's reducing the value of the variable by 1. That's what a decrement operator is. Now, one more thing I needed to tell you is that the increment and decrement operators are always supposed to be put before the variable, not after the variable, before the variable. So let's say we had a unique situation where we are saying a minus b, but we want to decrement b. you can even do it like this and it'll still understand that you're decrementing. So let's see what this means. All right, so if we have decremented b, it means the value of b, the new value of b after decrementation is 1. All right, and a is still going to be 4, so 4 minus 1 should return 3. So let's try and print that out. Print difference, sorry, not the sum. Let me just save this and let's run this. So it should in theory return 3. And there we are. So that's basically increment and decrement operators. So just to summarize, an increment operator just deals with 2 positive signs before the variable. All right, and it increases the value by 1. All right, for decrement operators it reduces the value by 1, and again it uses the negative signs, and again it basically comes before the variable. So those are basically increment and decrement operators. Very, very important for you to understand them. And that's basically it for this video. If you have any questions, just let me know in the Q&A section of the course. Hello everyone and welcome to this video. In this video, I'm basically going to be explaining relational operators and how they're used in Kotlin. So let's get started, and I'm going to create a new Kotlin class. So I'm going to call this relational operators. So what are relational operators? Well, let me just create the main function before we go anything. Function main args array. This opens in terms of a string. Oops, let me actually just correct that. String, and then we open this as a function, so we can open that. Now, as I was saying, what is a relational operator? For most of you who have done mathematics, even at a high school level, will understand that relational operators are basically these operators right here: the greater than, less than. All right, you then have your equal to, and then you're not equal to. All right, so these are the basic relational operators that exist in Kotlin and are very, very similar to the ones that exist in other programming languages. So you might be also asking yourself, when do I get to use these? Well, you could get to use these, for example, in if statements, which we'll be discussing. So if I was to do a simple test program to explain this to you, so if we say variable a is equals to let's say 10, variable b is equals to 20. All right, so now if we were to say a is greater than b, all right, that's not how you would basically put it. So if you are to use an if statement and we were to say a is greater than b, so if a is greater than b, and this is we were saying if a is greater than b, which it's not, it should basically print out something here. So we'll say print a is not greater than b, and this would come out true because a in reality is not greater than b. The values are not greater than, the value of a is not greater than b. And if you are to run this, we'll basically get this response right here. A is not greater than b. But you're seeing that it's not getting a response, and that's because you're testing if a is not greater than b, which it's not. So then it's not going to print this. But if we reverse this and say b is greater than a, then it should actually respond by saying a is not greater than b. Or we can say a is greater than b. I mean b is greater than a. So that's basically the simple relational. Now, when talking about relational operators, you have the greater than or equal to. I'm sure you guys remember this if you have done this in mathematics. It's you basically have your greater than or equal to, and that basically means if b is greater than or equal to a. So if b is greater than 10 or equal to 10, greater than 10 or equal to 10, all right, but in this case it's none. So this is just to make sure that if it's equal to 10 or greater than 10, then it should print out the result. You then have your less than and equal to, which works the similar way. So if b is less than to b a, which it's not, or equal to a, which it again it's not, so it's not going to print this out. All right, you then have your equal to, which is basically this is b is equals to a, which it isn't. All right, so that this is your equals to operator. You then have your not equals to operator, which b is not equals to a, which is true, and it will basically print this out. So these are the operators. So if we were just to look at them, we were to say this is greater than, we have the less than, all right, you then have your greater than or equal to, you have the less than or equal to, you then have your equal to, and then you have your not equal to. All right, so these are basically your relational operators that you'll come across a lot, especially when programming for Android with Kotlin. So that's basically it, guys, for this video. If you have any questions, just let me know in the Q&A section of the course.